Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Long time no video, eh? So we're going to get started. This unit is going to focus on decimal numbers. So lesson 2.1, decimals is equal divisions. I'd like you to write that at the top of your math notebook page, and then write the I can statement. I can read and write decimals and fractions. Fractions, we should be really good at it because we just had that. I know you guys really rocked it out on the test, so I'm proud of all of you for that. So let's go ahead and get started today. So when we talk about writing decimal numbers, this is going to be important for us to understand. When we write decimal numbers that are less than 1, we usually write a 0 before the decimal or in the ones place. Now there are some reasons for that, okay? Writing the 0 helps us to notice that there actually is a decimal, okay? Without it, sometimes that can get missed. All right, so the 0 also helps us to remember it is a number that is less than 1. Okay, so if I got a 0 in the ones place, I know my number is now less than 1. Just like all the fractions that we were doing that were not improper or fractions greater than 1, those were all numbers that were less than 1. Okay, so we look at 1/10. We know how to write that as a fraction. That's going to be 1 over 10. When we write it as a decimal number, we're going to put that 0 in the ones place, and then this first place past the decimal point, which we all know, is the tenths place. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. So when we talk about fractions, fractions and decimals both tell us the number of equal parts a whole is divided into. They also tell us the number of those parts that are being taken or described.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
I know what you mean, but I'll make more sense of this, I promise. So here we go. Okay? Fraction notation uses a numerator and denominator to show a whole. Think about a pie, pizza, cake, whatever works for you there, divided into any number of equal parts. So for example, here's our one whole. If we look at the next one, this is now divided into 4 equal parts. And our denominator down here tells us that it's 4 equal parts. It's 4 all the way along. Okay? So if I'm going to look at just this shaded section, I know that I have 1 of 4 equal parts, or 1/4. Now, decimals. When we talk about decimal notation, we use the decimal point to show places to the right of the 1 point. The easiest way to think about that is to think about money, okay? We all are very familiar with money because we like it. I like money. I know you guys like money because it allows us to do things, to spend things, to go buy all the candy and video games we could ever hope for. So, the tenths place shows one whole, think $1, divided into 10 equal parts, okay? So we're talking about the tenths place that can show $1 divided into 10 equal parts, okay? It's easy to think dimes there. It takes 10 dimes to make $1, okay? The hundredths place shows that that says tenth. It's supposed to say tenth, but we're going to run with it. Divided into 10 equal parts. I suppose you could divide a tenth into equal parts, but I don't know if you could put it back together, all right? So thinking about making a dime into pennies, okay? If it takes 10 dimes, it takes 100 pennies, okay? But that hundredths place is going to show the individual dime divided into 1 penny each, okay? So let's take a look at tenths for just a minute. Okay, so here are all my dimes. I've got 10 dimes there. That's going to be looking at my dollar, okay? If I take one of those dimes, that's 1 of 10 equal parts, or 1/10, okay? I can think about that if I wrote that in dollar and cents notation here. You can see my 0 where the ones place is. That's how I would write 1 dime, or 1/10 of $1. And I can also just write it as 0 and 1/10, and the 1 in the tenths place. Please remember, when we're talking about decimal numbers, I could put as many zeros as I wanted to after this number. It's still 1/10. The only way that changes is if I start putting all these zeros out here and then I stick another digit out here that's not a 0. Then it changes the value. But zeros after decimal numbers don't change the value. It's only if we add other whole numbers there that change that value, okay? Hundredths. So there's 100 pennies here. I know it's kind of small, so you might need to get out your magnifying glass to see that. But trust me, there's 100 pennies there, okay? So that's 1/100th, or 1 of 100 equal parts. We all know that 100 pennies make $1. So if I got 1 of them, I've got 1 out of the 100 that it takes to make the dollar. When we write a penny in dollar and cents notation, it looks like that. And again, that's 1 penny, or 100th of $1. When we write that as a decimal number, we put the 0 in the ones place, but also in the tenths place, because I don't have any tenths at this point. I just have 1 penny. That's going to be in the hundredths place. Now let's say I had 11 pennies. That would be 11 cents. That means I could convert 10 of those pennies into a dime, and that's why we would write a 1 and a 1 here if it was 11 cents. But it's only 1, so we're just going to have that 0 there to keep that placeholder, okay? That's going to be important. When we talk about thousands, now this may be a little tricky to conceptualize, but I know you can do it, okay? We're taking a tenth of a penny. It's like cutting it into slices, okay? I don't recommend trying that at home either because you won't be able to spend it, okay? So that's one of 1,000 equal parts. So imagine I took every one of these pennies and cut them into 10 parts. 10 times 100, that's 1,000, okay? So when I write that, it looks like this. Whoa, 1/10 of a penny or 1/1000th of a dollar. Or, that should say thousandths place. Boy, I made some oopsies in this video. Sorry, that should say thousandths. This, ladies and gentlemen, wrong. Okay, so we're going to put the pen here. I'm going to cross this out. Bad, bad, bad pizza. Okay, this should say thousandths. Okay, I'm not going to write all this, but you kind of get the idea. All right, just remember that this should be thousandths place. It's hard to write with a pen on a mouse pad, so just know that should say thousandths place. Okay, and you might be thinking to yourself, I've never seen a thousandth before of a dollar. Well, yeah, you have, because look at this gas station sign right here. First of all, I wish gas was $2.89 a gallon right now, but I digress. So let me get back to what we're talking about. Look right here. Here's my dollars, $2. Here's my dimes or tenths place. Here's my pennies place. But look right over here. This is 9/10 of a penny, which is in the thousandths place. 1/10 of a penny is 1,000th of a dollar. I've got 9/10 of a penny. So you have seen it before. You just probably didn't realize it. So it's out there for you. Next time you drive by a gas station, take a look. It's there. It's not about the money, it's about the decimals. But they are very well related to one another, so that's why we spend time on that. All right, so fractions and decimals a little bit more. When we think about the tenths place, we can think about dimes, hundredths place, penny, thousandths, and look, I misspelled that too. Man, I am on a roll with this video, which is 1/10 of a penny. You'll have to excuse all my errors. I'll have to polish this up for next time. All right, another way to think about that is we can think about our dimes as fractions first, because we're spending a lot of time with fractions. So I've got 1 dime through 10 dimes here. If I write those as fractions, you'll see I've got 1/10, 2/10, 8/10, 9/10, 10/10, okay, which we also know is a dollar, okay. But look at those as decimal numbers, not in dollar and cents notation, but just as raw decimal numbers. I've got a 1 in the tenths place. Remember, that's 1 dime, 9 dimes. But look what happens when I move to 10 dimes here, ladies and gentlemen. My 1 now jumps over here to the ones place because 10 dimes equal 1 whole. Okay, think about it in that, we talk about fractions, that's 1 whole, or they equal a dollar. Where would that 1 go if it was a dollar? It'd go to the left of the decimal point, not the right. Okay? All right, so we're going to look at decimals as equal parts of sets here. You can see up here, you can see these kind of mirror around the ones, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the next lesson. Think about lines of symmetry. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but you can see outside of the ones place, either side as we go, the only thing that changes here, besides the value of the number, is how we say them, the THS at the end. So you can see tens, tenths, hundred, hundredths, thousands, thousandths. Hey, I spelled thousands right there. That's pretty good, right? Okay, so decimal numbers are read as if they are fractions. So when I say this is 37 hundredths and this is 37 hundredths, they're both said as 37 hundredths. There's no difference there, okay? Now, thing you want to remember about before I go too much in these sample problems is that when we say 37 hundredths, the 7 in this number has to end or stop in that decimal place. It has to stop in the hundredths place. We don't start 37 hundredths in the hundredths place. That's where it stops. That's the big stop sign, octagon, red, white letters, okay? So let's take a look at these problems here. Here I can read this number as 7 hundredths. And when I write that, that means my 7 has to be in the hundredths place. You'll notice I put a 0 in here to keep it in that place. I've got to have a placeholder for that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. The next one is 16 hundredths. And then this one down here is 54 thousandths, which means that 4 is going to be in the thousandths place. Now, sometimes I found it's helpful when working with kids if they do it like this. You write out your decimal numbers because you know you're going to go to the hundredth spot, and you put your 7 in the hundredth spot first. Now I realize I've got this blank here. I'm going to need to put something in there to hold that. That's at 0, and I don't have any 1s here either. So this acts as my placeholder. It's also a reminder, hey, that 7's got to be in the hundredths place, and I'll just fill backwards from there, okay? I can do the same thing with the next number. I can put my 6, because at 16 hundredths, the 6 has to end in that hundredths place, and I put the 1 and then the 0. And the next one, 54 thousandths. That means my 4, I'm going to go out to the thousandths place. My 4 has to go in the thousandths place, and I can work backwards from there. Again, I need a 0 as a placeholder here. Otherwise, if I don't put that there, I end up with 54 hundredths, and they are not the same thing. And there we go. Okay? Here are your sample problems today. I want you to write each fraction as a decimal number, and I'm just going to trust you to say it at home. May seem a little weird if you're talking to your computer going, that's this much, all right? But it's good practice to get into to understand that when we read those decimal numbers, we say them just like they were as fractions. And I will see you in class soon.